good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching, whatever time you're listening. Welcome to Your Onion Podcast Show. Today we have a very special guest, very honoured to have the ambassador to Qatar for Australia, Dr. Axel Wabenhorst. Wabenhorst?
That's right, yes.
Well, thank you for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure. Nice to chat.
Yes, absolutely. So, Axel, can you just give us, I've just given what your title is, but could you just give us an introduction to what you do here in Qatar?
Yes, so I'm the ambassador to Qatar. I'm actually the first resident Australian ambassador to Qatar.
Oh, really?
And so I'm the ambassador who opened the Australian embassy here. And that happened, I arrived about 2.5 years ago, and the embassy was opened a few months after that. So really it's been about raising the profile of Australia in a nutshell and explaining, what Australia's about, what are our capabilities, as well as understanding, what interests Qatar, what are Qatar's priorities, and then matching those two up. So matching businesses, for example, and of course it's it's always a work in progress, and but my job is largely to meet people and chat with them.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's go back in time.
Yes.
Okay. So you're from Australia.
Correct.
Whereabouts in Australia were you born, and what kind of education did you have?
So I grew up in Melbourne, but I actually was born in Germany. So
hence the Wabenhorst.
Yes, and the Axel.
Yes, the Axel as well. Yes, I've met a few Axels. So in my time here.
Aha. Okay.
And they are generally from Germany. Yes.
Aha. Yes.
So mum and dad from Germany.
Correct.
So why did they immigrate to Australia?
Yes, that's right. So it was for my father's work.
Oh, okay. And what was he into?
So he was working for a pharmaceutical company.
Okay.
And it was almost like a posting. Well, it was a posting for instead of for a diplomat, for a business person.
Yeah.
Similar thing.
Was the company expanding, or were they just,
No, it was just, just the rotation.
Okay.
But then instead of going back to Germany, my parents decided, we'll stay in Australia.
This is a decent place to stay.
Decent place.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
And so that was Melbourne. So that's where I grew up, in Melbourne. And then,
So what did you study? So you went to university?
I did. I studied maths and computer science at university.
Was that something that you've always been interested in?
It was. And I think it resulted from enjoying maths at school.
Yeah, because my son, I've just been to my son's, parents' evening, and he's very good at maths. He loves maths. So that got me thinking, what could he go into that, it requires, good intelligence of maths. So you were into maths. You
Yes.
studied computer science and mathematics. What did you have any intention afterwards? Did you know what you wanted to go into afterwards?
So the computer science came after maths, and it was largely, though, applying maths to computing. And at that stage I thought, that's my path. I'm going to be an academic at State University.
Ah, okay.
So I wasn't so much practically oriented, but at various stages there were other possibilities I could have pursued, like actuarial work, which is, I think, application of statistics, in the field of insurance, for example. But that sounded, I guess, always a bit dry. So so my transition to my current work was largely a clean break from what I'd been doing before.
Well, I was going to say, how did you go from what you studied to where you are now? How did that transition happen?
So when I was at university, I was a member of a student society which discussed international relations. And so when I applied for the Australian Diplomatic Service, I mentioned that as my, I guess, main claim to fame, that
Yeah.
I had shown extracurricular interest in
Okay.
international relations.
Yeah.
And I think, that was basically it. I mean, I studied languages in the past and
Were you any
enjoyed
good at
that.
it? You
I did enjoy
Yeah, you
languages.
enjoyed it?
Yes, yes. So at school, I learnt languages, not so much at university, but at school.
Yeah.
And it just sounded like a huge challenge. I mean, I think with my work in academia, I could see where that was going for the next 30 years, and I think something a bit different
Yeah.
was what I was after. So
I'm just curious. When you came home, was English the language that you spoke, or did mum and dad speak German? So were you brought up with the two languages?
yes, so mum and dad spoke German,
Yeah.
and English was everywhere else.
Yeah.
So, I've kept up with the speed of the spoken language. I think the vocabulary is a bit limited, but in most situations I sort of manage.
Okay. So you went into the diplomatic corps. How has your journey been? Have you been posted to different countries?
I have. I've had now 3 postings, including this one. They've all been in the Middle East.
Why is that?
I think it's largely the result of coincidence. So I did at one stage do a teach yourself Arabic course, mainly just because I was curious. I had been traveling on a Middle East airline and, seen Arabic writing for the first time, and I thought, it'd be really nice if I could understand this. And so that's where the curiosity came from. And then someone had a teach yourself course at home, and I borrowed it. And when I joined the diplomatic services, I said, well, I have really, really basic Arabic, and
and they went, okay, you're the man.
And they said, yes, we'll put you in the Middle East area and see how you like it.
Yeah.
So, it's been good. I've, of course, applied for each of my postings in the Middle East, but I've also applied for postings elsewhere. But, this is what always ends up happening.
So teach yourself Arabic. Have you gone to do more courses, or it's always been just teach yourself Arabic?
No, so I've done, actually, as part of my first posting, I've done 2 years full-time of Arabic, which basically meant 4 hours a day of classes followed by about 4 hours of homework. So that means essentially a working day, a normal working day, but learning only Arabic.
Wow.
Yes, and that for 2 years. So it needs stamina,
Yeah.
but it's a really nice language, and I did enjoy it. Apart from when I make mistakes and I repeat my mistakes, and
Yeah, I know,
it's
but
confronting.
But isn't it rewarding when you are actually talking Arabic?
It is rewarding, yes,
Yeah.
yes, and
are
it's-
people surprised that you can speak Arabic as well?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not very common for particularly Western diplomats to speak Arabic.
Yeah.
And, I'm very lucky that, our diplomatic service invests in the language and in other languages. And it's a real, it really opens doors. I mean, that's what I would say. It's, you can have conversations with people on subjects that you can't otherwise have. because not everyone speaks English in the Arab world.
No.
Yeah.
No, I saw a video of you speaking Arabic, and I was very impressed.
Thank you. It was
And it
probably
wasn't just
rehearsed.
your basic level either. You were talking about deep stuff.
Well, it might have been a National Day greeting. That's
No, I think you were talking
suspect
about
it was.
helicopters or something.
Okay.
It was
I'll
some
have to
deal.
I'll have to track it down. But yeah, it's a nice language.
Yeah.
Very nice to listen to, nice to look at.
Yeah, and you keep yourself. You practice all the time still.
I do probably more listening than speaking. To
Yeah.
be honest, I think. Most of the people I speak to, their English is better than my Arabic, so it ends up being English most of the time.
Great. So you haven't actually said where you were posted. So what countries were you posted?
So my first posting was Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
That was my first.
And how long were you there
full-length
for?
posting? That was 2.5 years.
And that was straight from Australia to Saudi Arabia?
No, I had a year in Jordan learning Arabic and 6 months in Iraq, sort of filling in for a colleague. So, yeah.
And you enjoyed being in the Middle East? Coming from Australia, you enjoyed that experience?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. It's the Middle East has so much history. It's got an ancient culture, and people are just really hospitable. So that would be, why I've enjoyed pretty much every minute of it. So it's fantastic.
Yeah. And when you were posted, so you were in Saudi Arabia for
2.5
years,
yes.
and then
okay, so after Saudi Arabia, after another stint in Australia, I went to Iran.
okay.
And they don't speak Arabic there, but
No. But I saw that you taught yourself Farsi.
yes, I did.
And how did that go?
Fine. Okay, I wouldn't say I taught myself. I had a teacher
Okay.
who came and taught me, but that was sort of, on my initiative largely. But yeah, I mean, that's also a great language and has, of course, commonalities with Arabic.
I had a friend who was very into kind of, and he was very analytical, and he loved learning languages in a way that it was kind of a code-breaking way. Is that how you see things? Because you come from that mathematical mind, do you think that makes it easier when you're learning languages?
Absolutely, and particularly in the case of Arabic, which has a lot of grammar. The maths is really great. I mean, maths is about using rules to deduce facts from other facts, and grammar's a bit the same. So you use rules to express yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And how long were you in Iran for?
3 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and that was great too.
Yeah. And then?
And then I went back to Australia, and then I came
So
here.
every time you go back to Australia, how long do you?
It varies between, so far between 2 and 4 years.
Oh really? Do you get itchy feet then? Like it's time. Okay, I've had enough being in Australia. I need to go.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, I joined the diplomatic service to be overseas. I think I would say, most diplomats think that way.
Yeah.
And I think, the work is full of variety, and you meet so many people from all walks of life, and that's different to working in head office in Australia. So
Yeah.
I mean, Australia is fantastic, and it's fantastic in a different way. But I think working overseas, I think you can't beat it, really.
No. And does it open your eyes? Because you're mixing with different cultures. Does it really open your eyes to the kind of the mix? when you come from Australia, although Australia is a mix of cultures as well, but when you're thrown into a different culture, it must open your eyes to way of life and.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's the way of life. It's how people prioritize things. It's food. Even within the region, there are so many differences, and I think it's just good to treat each country as like a wholly new experience. Of course, you've got your reference points, but it's really good to start with an open mind and just sort of as if you're a mathematician, you collect your facts and then you try and make deductions from that and see where you end up.
And is there a lot of Australian business in Saudi and Iran?
I would say, well, in my time there, not so much, and Iran very little, and Saudi Arabia a bit more. But really, in Saudi Arabia, there were a lot of Australians, but they were working for other companies, like whether it's local companies or foreign companies, but not so much the Australian companies. I think there were a few there at the time, but the Australians were kind of all over the place, 5 here, 10 there.
Oh, okay.
And actually it's a bit like that here too.
Really?
Yes.
Isn't there any main companies that have...
There are main companies, but even they tend to be very multicultural. So even if it's an Australian company, they might have only 20% Australians or 25%, and a lot of different nationalities make up the rest. And likewise, Australians will work in all kinds of foreign companies too, so including Qatari companies.
So after Iran, you went back to Australia, and then did you come here? Was this your third posting?
This is my third posting.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
And how's it been? Since was this the first one that you physically launched an Australian embassy? Was this the first time? Your experience?
Right. Yes, that's right. And that was just an amazing opportunity, really. I remember arriving, and my two colleagues had just arrived, and we were in offices. We had no staff. We had to even register ourselves as a company and open a bank account.
Oh, you did all that?
Not so much me personally, but my colleagues and I together, we had to basically ask people and ask, so how do we do this? And of course we had a lot of help from the foreign ministry, and we got there, and but it was you start with a clean slate, and you don't have a model to follow. No. And you just do what the priorities are, and explore the opportunities, and try different things. So
And have you got an office?
Yes.
So where are you based?
So we're in the Tornado Tower here in West Bay.
Nice.
Which is it's great location, great facilities. We're very happy.
So I've been to a few functions, and there's always seems to be ambassadors, always out.
Yes.
How do you keep pace with that?
Yes. Well, I think it's the prospect of meeting new people, and of course seeing the other ambassadors there. That's nice. But there'll always be someone who I haven't met before, and you can chat to them, find out a little bit about them, eat different food. So national days, for example, there's usually one or two dishes at least with the food of the country, so it's there's a lot of variety. So I think that's the motivator.
But do you find yourself out most evenings, whether it's a National Day celebration or
yes,
a function?
I do most evenings. That's right, and it is a lot. Definitely, and sometimes I get home late and I think, I don't really want to go to bed yet. I need to look at my emails or whatever. And, but then, you just find it's, there aren't enough hours in the day, basically.
No, I can imagine. The question just went out of my head because my producer just told me that it was 10 minutes ago. What was I going to say? Oh, it's just gone. But do you feel, how do you keep yourself, energized and, with these late nights and, up in the mornings and stuff like that? How do you keep yourself going?
Well, I think one of the main things I like to do is exercise. And that's just been something I've done, since I was at school. And I think, that clears the mind. And I think also it helps with, all of the food that I eat. You have to, food and exercise go well together, I find.
I'm a firm believer in that. You have to. Otherwise, you end up being bigger than you normally are.
That's right, yes. But, also in Doha, there's just so many different opportunities for doing things in your spare time. So you've got a lot of, cultural places. You've got the beach. And people from all over the world that you can be friends with. So it's just a very normal life, I would say.
How long is your posting? Is it generally 3 to 4 years?
Yes, 3 to 4 years. So I'm finishing up in about 4 months' time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
So any idea? So you'll go back to Australia and then see. Yes. After a while, where you're going to get posted after that.
That's right. Yes. Yes. So who knows? This is part of the beauty of this career, that it's not mapped out, and partly it's being in a certain place at a certain time. And as I said, our embassy didn't exist, and it wouldn't have been on my radar, but it was about to open, and I put my hat into the ring. So
well done. Do you meet other ambassadors through your career, that you've met before? You might have a similar posting.
Yes, so there have been instances of that. So where I've been on a posting previously with someone, and they've turned up here, for example, and that's really nice. But it'll probably happen more in future too.
Yeah.
So.
And I've noticed there's quite a few female ambassadors here as well. Has Australia got a few females as well that might be posted? Because they're quite a force here in Qatar.
Yes, they are. And we do have female ambassadors. We have about somewhere between 30 and 40%, as I understand it. Wow. And we are doing our best to increase that number.
Yeah.
And I think we're making good progress, and we'll get there. But it's true, the female ambassadors we have are fantastic, as well as the female ambassadors here in Doha.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yes, they're great colleagues.
And do you think you'll be coming back to the World Cup?
I really hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just the spectacle of it will be amazing. The fans will be really into it. I think the organisation's going to be fantastic. I mean, the design of the stadiums, they're going to blow everyone away, I think. And I think it's going to be just a really relaxed, friendly World Cup. And, I'd love to return and be part of it. I quite like soccer as a spectator, so I think it's going to be good.
Do you think there'll be an Australian team?
Now we have been in the last several World Cups. Of course, last time we only just qualified, so who knows what will happen? We have to see. But teams go up and go down, but hopefully we'll be there, and that'll be great if we are.
I'm always surprised actually, because Australia is a mix of different cultures, and you've got a lot of Italians contingent in Australia as well. That there hasn't been a better football team in Australia. I could be treading on people's toes here. I'm not a football fan, so don't quote me here.
I think I'm not an expert myself, but I think it's maybe distance from the best leagues in the world. So Australia's a little bit isolated. Of course, our good players, they do play overseas, but then to get them back to Australia to play in the national team, that's a bit of an ask. And, then you've got to look at things like the National League and the youth and how the training, how the development aspects are set up. And, I'm by no means an expert
on that.
but if we look at sports like rugby, where New Zealand beat Australia like almost guaranteed, and their population is like 1/8 of ours. And so it's, I think, a similar question to yours. Given the population and the composition, why is New Zealand so much more successful than us? And I think it's just. It's I think it's like a national priority for them, and we rugby is incredibly popular in Australia as well. But we anyway, I think you can have a long conversation about why some teams are good and some not, but I'm not an expert, and it is dangerous territory. I'm going to
so apologies to any passionate footballers in Australia. Well, thank you, Axel. I really appreciate you coming in and having this chat, and I wish you all the best. And if you come back in 2022, then please pop in and say hello.
Yes, I'd love to. And tell you how I've managed to get on.
Absolutely. It'd be interesting to hear where you're posted next after this. So thanks again.
Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll catch up with you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.